The Five Nights at Freddy's series has captivated its audience with its unique blend of horror and storytelling. Each game in the series has its own distinct elements that contribute to its charm and its challenges. In today's video, we will go through the worst and the best parts of each game in the franchise. But before we get into it, if you enjoy the video, please consider subscribing.
Or else I will find you.
Now, starting off with FNAF 1. The best part of the original Five Nights at Freddy's is its simplicity and the atmosphere it creates. The game successfully uses limited resources like your power to build a tense and horrifying experience. The static cameras, the dark and eerie setting, and the looming threat of the animatronics create an intense sense of dread that keeps players on edge. Now, the worst part of FNAF 1 is the repetitiveness of the gameplay. The mechanics, while effective at doing what they're meant to do, can become very repetitive as players spend each night performing the same actions for 8 whole minutes. The repetition of 8-minute nights just gets so boring over time and eventually just isn't fun. Moving on to FNAF 2. FNAF 2's best aspect is the introduction of new animatronics and gameplay mechanics. The inclusion of the mask, the music box, and the flashlight adds layers of complexity and strategy, making the game feel more engaging. The new characters also being added to the lore and depth of the series enhance the overall experience for the player. Now, the worst part of FNAF 2 is on the custom night when you turn Foxy to 0 and he still stays in the night. On to FNAF 3. The best part of FNAF 3 is the introduction of Springtrap. The game dives deeper into the lore of the series, introducing a more cohesive and intriguing story. Springtrap as an antagonist is genuinely terrifying, and his presence adds a new level of fear and urgency to the game. Now, the worst part of FNAF 3 is the insanely boring gameplay. All you do gameplay-wise is just drag Springtrap back to farther cameras, and he's also the only animatronic, so there's little to no actual threat in this game. Moving on to FNAF 4. The best part of FNAF 4 is how it excels in its atmosphere and sound design. They absolutely cooked with the vibes and the horror factors in this game because it is terrifying. Now, the worst part of FNAF 4 is that it's probably the hardest FNAF game of all time.
You son of a bitch! Jesus. Okay, so the first night is never usually that bad in any of the games, so I'll play through. What the fuck?
You have to learn to interpret subtle audio cues while managing 4 different areas that you're running to constantly. This can lead to confusion and frustration, especially for those who struggle to discern the audio cues. Moving on to FNAF World. The best part about FNAF World is that stepping away from the horror genre, FNAF World offered a turn-based RPG experience which provided a completely new take on the franchise's characters. I'd also like to mention another very good part about FNAF World is how many characters it has from every other game, including Scott himself. Now, the worst part is how different it was from the usual FNAF game, because many fans did not like this. Even Scott himself said at one point that he didn't like it. And the gameplay is also just pretty weak and disjointed. But anyways, let's move on. On to Sister Location. Sister Location stands out for its varied gameplay and narrative-driven structure. Each night presents different challenges, which keeps the gameplay very fresh and engaging. The voice acting and story elements are more prominent, which add to the depth and context to the lore as well. Now, the worst part of Sister Location is night 4. And, you know, I don't even think this one needs an explanation, so we're gonna move on, you know. On to FNAF 6 Pizzeria Simulator. FNAF 6's best feature is its combination of tycoon and horror. The shift between managing a pizzeria and surviving the night in an actual FNAF environment creates a unique and engaging gameplay loop. The salvage mechanic also adds a layer of risk and reward, which enhances the overall experience for the player. Okay, yeah, now I know that this may be a skill issue, but the worst part of FNAF 6 is that Afton does not hop off. I see this dude at one of the farthest rooms, and then bro suddenly up my ass. On to FNAF Ultimate Custom Night. The best part of Ultimate Custom Night is the customization and replayability. UCN stands out because of its insane customization options, which players can select from a wide array of animatronics, 50 in total to be specific, and adjust their difficulty levels, creating unique and challenging scenarios. Now, the worst part about UCN is the game's complexity can be so overwhelming for new players or those unfamiliar with the series. Managing the mechanics of 50 different animatronics simultaneously requires quick reflexes and extensive knowledge of each character's behavior. And coming from experience, I can confirm that this game is very frustrating sometimes. Moving on to FNAF Help Wanted. The best part about Help Wanted is obviously that it's VR, but this game also brought us most of the original games and also added a variety of mini games and challenges all in one, which provide us with a comprehensive FNAF experience. Now, the worst part of Help Wanted is the plush baby level. Now this again might be personal, but I remember when this game first came out, I could not beat this section for the life of me. So in my opinion, this is the worst part of this game. Now, on to FNAF Security Breach. The best part of Security Breach is its free roam aspect and exploration elements. The game's setting in a large, detailed, futuristic pizzaplex offers a new level of freedom and immersion. The ability to roam freely and interact with the environment creates an entirely new experience that FNAF fans haven't seen before. Now, the worst part of Security Breach is the horror factor. Although I do absolutely love this game, I've never actually gotten scared, even by a jump scare. For 90% of the game, the atmosphere is very bright, which isn't like the average FNAF game, and you know exactly when every jump scare is gonna happen because they're literally just running at you. Next up is Security Breach's DLC, Ruin. The best part of Ruin is the overall vibe. I absolutely love the idea of revisiting the Pizzaplex after it all burned down. Going back through the Pizzaplex and recognizing old areas but seeing them different and all run down is just so sick to me. And it is in my top 3 FNAF games of all time because of this. But now, the worst part of Ruin is the constant child nodes. I absolutely hate these child nodes. The first playthrough was fine, but this game was not fun to replay because of the nodes and the amount of them throughout the game that there are. Adding on to the nodes being the only thing you do throughout the game, there's also no threat for 90% of it, which just makes it not fun. Now, the final game, FNAF Help Wanted 2. The best part of Help Wanted 2 is that unlike the original Help Wanted, the minigames in this game are almost all completely new experiences, and it is also personally my favorite FNAF game of all time. But now, for the worst part, I honestly can't think of a single thing I don't like about this game, so we're just gonna go with the Roxy makeup minigames because those are my least favorite. Now, while each FNAF game brings unique innovations and challenges to the franchise, they also introduce elements that can be frustrating or annoying for the players, from resource management to parts of the games that just aren't fun to play. But despite these annoyances, the franchise continues to captivate players with its intricate lore, engaging gameplay, and of course, its jump scares.
Also, an honorable mention to these characters for no specific reason whatsoever.